Bill, I think first and foremost we should start by sending our thoughts to everyone in Las Vegas. The obscene incident that happened there by scum, subhuman scum. Our thoughts are with everyone to stay strong and stick together. You know,
Yeah.
let's all stick together in this time of need and stuff like that happens. I know of it, horrific incidents has happened around the world, and we just kind of want to put our thoughts out there to everyone.
Yeah, no, it's Las Vegas is it's one of these things. It's a weird city, but it's a great city. When there's just that like there's a buzz with the place, and it's one of those places that you really have to kind of go in your lifetime and kind of experience it. But for like something like that to happen, it's kind of numbing. It's not nice to think about too much, but it's always kind of in the back of your back of your mind, especially today. It's been in the back of my mind all day. Being at those places, certain places where that was happening, it's tough. But I say, hope no more kind of tragedies kind of fall from the injured that remain. But yeah, it was a tough start to the week. But knowing what the people in Las Vegas are like, they'll kind of lift themselves and they'll help each other and they'll be back on their feet in no time.
Exactly, yeah. There's a huge spirit in the community there.
Yeah.
Well, this episode, we are going to look towards UFC 216. We're going to also answer your questions that you've pinged over to us, people, and we're just going to talk about some fun matchups that have been recently announced. And it'd be silly not to talk about them because there's some wild fights that have been put out there for us all to enjoy. So, bro, let's jump right into this UFC 216 card. I'm not sure where you want to start. We can start from the bottom and work our way up if you want, or if there's just specific fights you fancy talking about. I'm down for whatever you want to look at, bro.
Yeah, let's just go from the bottom up. Let's
Okay,
just do
then.
everything because I say there's not. It's quite a quiet week for us, except
Yeah.
outside of that. So
Yeah.
let's just talk about the fights, I say, and go from there.
So let's start then with, I think, Matt Schnell against Marco Beltran. To be honest, these two are two of potentially the biggest flyweights about, because these are not small dudes. You Demetrius Johnsons, you had your Benavidez. These guys are kind of, they're 125ers. These two, the pair of them, they are big 125ers, really long, really tall. So I think the two of them, obviously they're used to fighting smaller guys. I think it's going to be quite a fun bout because you'll really get to see who has mastered their range finding compared to the other opponent, because they're both going to be long. So you're really going to see which one is the far superior striker. Now, Matt Schnell's one of them guys. He's a bit of a yo-yo fighter, with his wins and losses, but he does have a very good skill set. I think if he gets if he can get that consistency in, I could see him doing really well in the flyweight division. Now, winning the title, I don't see him doing that. But I think with Beltran, I see a lot of limitations, but I see a guy it's that kind of Mexican style. You know what you're getting, don't you, Will? Those guys are just going to bite down no matter what's happening. And who do I see winning myself, bro? It's a tough one. I wouldn't look past Beltran, but I'm going to go with Matt Schnell only because I've got a slight kind of link with Matt from the past with interview and stuff like that. I think he's a top guy, and I think he's got a good ground game anyway. But I think he's a good one to watch.
Yeah, it's a relevant fight for both guys because I think if one of them loses this fight, they could be getting their marching orders from the company. Especially Matt. I mean, he was on the Tough Show. He's come in. He moved up in weight to fight Rob Font. That's a hard enough thing in itself.
Yeah.
Then he faced Hector Sandoval and really did not have good fight IQ in that one. Tried to take him down, and then Sandoval was on top, dropping bombs. His chin is very fragile. Now I wonder if that is due to the guy cuts a fair amount of weight to make that division. He's a big dude, like you said. Beltran, he made the drop in his last fight as well. He's even bigger than I think what Matt Schnell is. So props to him as well because his mum died like 2 days before his fight against Alcantara, and that's how he managed to kind of even fight, get in the cage and fight is something. That's just the mentality of fighters. It's just when it's all they really know and they have to do it, and it's a big thing for the families and so on. But props to him for that. I just think in this matchup, as long as Matt doesn't get dinged on the chin, I think he wins this fight. I think he can mix it up, and then you've seen Beltran gas in that fight. Now, I say he did have a kind of devastating thing happen 2 days before, but Matt Schnell, he's fought more times down at that weight. He was in Titan. He used to fight over there. He won a belt over there. So he's made the drop in weight a long time. He kind of knows how to do it, and I think that'll help him more over the 3 rounds. And I just see Machinel winning more rounds and winning decision.
Yeah, it's a decision's the most common thing in flyweights, and especially if you DraftKings. Your DraftKings points are probably good ones to look at, aren't they? On your draft, if you're going to do your teams, I'd imagine.
Well, the thing is, you always look at the ones that can. It's kind of accumulating takedowns. Now it's more a takedown thing. It's not even a. It's changed a little bit since it moved to the 6 fighters. So looking at flyweight fights is never a bad thing, especially if they can warrant takedowns and moving to that. So that's something that you're going to have to talk more about on this, because I think once you get into what we'll maybe do next year, this will do something we've been thinking about is just like Will versus John throughout the year, and see if we can sort something out, or we might do us versus one of the people that are in the DFS industry, and trying us to come together and try and beat the big guys in the industry. That's something I've been thinking about, but it's something we can speak about a little bit closer to this. But
a bit more fun for the folks at home as well,
yeah. Yeah, see how we're doing, because there's a lot of good guys out there in the DFS community that play week in, week out like myself. But I think Matt Schnell, he's just he can be a little bit more active on the feet. He can get takedowns, and I think across the 15 minutes he can win rounds. So that's where I see that fight going.
Okay then, bro. Next up, you got in the middleweight division, and I think this is a telling fight again. Talis Latis and Brad Tavares. I think it's a telling fight for both guys, because Talis Latis came back to the UFC on an absolute tear, and to be honest with you, he looked solid. And again, we'll say it once, we'll say it 100 times. In my opinion, he beat Michael Bisping in Glasgow. All right, and Brad Tavares is a guy who's he is a 1-on-1 guy. He doesn't get these hot streaks, and he's in perennial contention. He's always kind of just on the outside all the time. He has good moments, and he has moments where he just looks awful. I see a tough fight here for Talis Latis if Brad Tavares can really apply a lot of pressure to keep him back. But to be honest with you, I don't see it happening. I just see Talis Latis being the smarter, suave vet that he is, and I think if he'll find it hard to get the takedowns on Brad, because I think Brad's a shorter fighter, stockier, lower center of gravity. But I think in the second round he might start to get those takedowns off the cage, especially like with the heel, the calf dragging his legs, getting those single legs down, little things like that. But if Talis can get a fight down, I can see him just dominating just for a couple of rounds if he doesn't get a submission and getting that victory.
I'm the other way. I'm Tavares. I like Tavares. I think he's against Elias. He really impressed me, because Elias is your quintessential point fighter, and is really good at like fighting to a game plan and sticking to it and winning rounds, very close rounds. He's one of those fighters that if you get to the end of that round, judges are probably going to give it to him, because he's kind of active on his feet. He's always moving. He's thrown off not a big output, but he's doing enough. He's controlling against the cage. Where in the last fight, Brad Tavares really, he kind of turned that around on Elias Theodorou and did everything which Elias usually does to people and won the decision there. He really impressed me in that performance. And I think that Talis, I'm completely 100% with you when you say that he beat Michael Bisping. We were there. We've seen how it went down. That Bisping, to his credit, fought okay, fought well, but I thought Talis Latis won that fight as well. And I knew as soon as the final bell went, I actually left before the fight got announced who won, because I knew that Bisping was going to get it. I just knew he was going to get it, because he has done in the past. I mean, we talked about it last week about decisions, and he got it. But it was a close fight, and being on all honesty, so I can see why they went that way. But Talis Latis, in my opinion, I think he's starting to slow down a little bit. I think he's in that no man's land now where he's losing to Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey's is terrible at kind of fight, really, because no matter what the fight's like, you just look terrible fighting that guy all across the board.
Because he's a counter striker, Sam. So you need someone to be offensive for that fight to be anything exciting. But then if you're playing cautious against it, then like you say, it is a dull fight, because no one's kind of doing anything. So the two of them are just squaring off. It's hard work. Yeah, it's. I mean, since he came back to the UFC, I mean, he was always in his first stint in the UFC. He was a jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah. Once you went down there, he was maybe in some troubling positions and stuff. Came back to the UFC and started KOing people.
But you look at the people that he beat. I mean, Tom Watson, Ed Herman, Trevor Smith, Carmont. These are all guys that somebody like a former title challenger should really be beating guys like that. Tim Boach, I think, is a good win because Tim can, on his day, can show up and blast you. But his losses, Bisbin, Musasi, Jotko, all legit losses to decent guys as well, and never been finished. So I just think that Brad's going to do more across the 15 minutes. I think he's going to be. I see him getting taken down, but I see him getting back up. I maybe even see him losing a round here, but I see him winning 29-28. I think the later in the fight this goes, I think Brad comes into it a little bit more and wins a close 29-28.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting fight for the pair. And let's say it's a big one for their careers because, like, for me, if Talis Slater's loses, where does he go?
Yeah.
What's he going to do? Does he just fight for the sake of fighting? For Brad as well, he's getting to that point where, are you ever going to get to the next level? You know, Are you ever going to get there? And he needs to win a fight like this against, like you say, a former title challenger and stuff like that. Next up, we've got, in my opinion, I think it's a fun fight to coming up. You've got the flyweights again. John Moraga, who is always good scrap to watch. And then you've got Magomed, oh gosh, here we go. Bubaladov.
There we go.
Bubaladov, yeah. Do you know what? I hate these Russian names. Hate them. Absolutely hate them. I usually Magomedov is bad about it. I think for John Moraga, he is a guy who's just always floating around outside of the elite bag. Because like he went and lost a load of fights, I think 3 in a row, came back, got a victory, and it wasn't anything special. It wasn't, he got a decision win, got a safe win, and that's kind of kept him in the UFC, so to speak. I think he's one of those guys where I don't see him ever going any further than he is right now.
Yeah.
I think his skill set isn't evolving, his striking, his grappling, none of it's really changed since day one. And it's nothing against him. I think he's a good addition to the flyweight because I think he's kind of a guy who, in my opinion, I want to call him a gatekeeper.
Gatekeeper. Perfect word for him, yeah.
And I think he's a good gatekeeper because he is tough as nails. That kid can take a hit. He will grapple with you all day. He'll put a really good fight onto you. And I think he's a good addition for that. So part of me wants him to win for that reason because I'd like him to stay in the UFC and do his little thing and get on and, just keep guys kind of test themselves. But he's fighting a dude who, in my opinion, is a legit guy who could do well in this UFC. I know he's not fought the kind of same level as Moraga's had to face, but I think it's a great matchup for Magomed to really project himself into the UFC flyweight division, get himself a solid win against Moraga, and I think he could potentially get a finish on Moraga as well.
This is the fight. There's only 4 fights in the main card. But they will add one, I reckon, before the weekend. This is the fight to move to the pay-per-view for the simple reason that we need more eyes on legit flyweight guys coming through to face Demetrius Johnson. And I think with inside 18 months with the right matchmaking, Magomed Biblatov is going to be fighting Demetrius Johnson at some point. This kid, I'm really high and hyped on this kid. I think he's really, really good. Everything that you see with him is very good. There's nothing that really stands out except for probably is just his opponents that he's faced, but he's fighting guys outside. It's hard to get flyweight fights outside the UFC with decent guys because the majority of them are in the UFC. So, but this is a clear step up from Janelle Lauser, who he absolutely dominated in his UFC debut, but he showed really good, solid striking, very accurate, very quick. He's got unbelievable wrestling, typical for a Russian coming over in the UFC. Just great grappling, great wrestling, great control. Throws a lot of spinning attacks, and it's just solid everywhere. Very aggressive. I can see him headhunting John Moraga a little bit. John Moraga's coming off that win over Ashkan Mokhtarian down in New Zealand, and that guy should not be in the UFC. He's considering those guys, Biblatov and Mokhtarian, coming at the same time. Biblatov is a legit contender in that division. Mokhtarian, I think we'll see him fight in Australia, and we might never see him again. He did not look good. He didn't look like he deserved to be in there. But Moraga did what he had to do, got the win, and is now pretty much like you said, is the gatekeeper. He's a really good gatekeeper because he's fought the best in the division. I think he's won a couple of fights against decent guys, but I think this is going to be clear a wipeout for Bibulatov. I think he's going to dominate every facet of the round, as long as he doesn't. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Verdum Velasquez fight, where Velasquez kept going for the takedown and eventually he was going to get caught. If Bibulatov puts his neck in the wrong place, John Moraga's got a really tight guillotine, so that's where I kind of worry a little bit, but not too much. I think that this Bibulatov guy is legit going to ragdoll John Moraga around a little bit and win this. I'm going like 30-26 across the board. For DraftKings, he's one of the most expensive guys, but he could easily get you 5 to 6 takedowns and advanced positions, and that's where your points are going to come, and raining punches and everything. So this could be a guy, but you've got to fit him in because everybody's going to be going with Demetrius Johnson, because Demetrius is the king of DraftKings if you look at his game log. So, but I like Magomed to win this very convincingly, 30-26 across the board, and then we'll probably see him. I'm not sure if he's in the rankings already. I think he probably should be. And that's kind of saying something considering he's only had one fight in the UFC, but well, maybe he's not. I don't think he is. No, he's not.
I don't think he is, no.
So this will put him in the rankings. You'll see him getting better guys, and we'll see where this guy's at. But I think he's a legit talent.
Now, next up is a heavyweight fight, and as we know, heavyweight fights can go one or two ways. There's no, and we only had it's very rare you get a very good heavyweight decision. All right, but I don't think this is going to go to a decision. We have got Walt Harris versus Mark Godbeer. Now, kudos, we've got a Brit fighting. You're going to support a Brit. But to be fair, these two are knockout guys. These are knockout artists. Let's be honest. Those guys hit so hard. It is a hell of a matchup, Will. And looking at it, bro, let's get your view on it, and then I'll jump in after.
I don't like the matchup for Mark. I think it's a tough matchup. This is I can kind of see where the UFC are going with this one. They're trying to get this big, athletic dude into that rankings and put him in there where they can kind of showcase him a little bit. They did that with his last couple of fights, and I think this is another one. This is a clear showcase fight for Walt Harris here. It should be, but in the past he's failed to deliver as well. I mean, I think they tried to do that with Shamil Abdurakhimov. They tried to do it with Stuart Palele, and he got knocked out in that one as well. But he's beat two guys in Chase Sherman and Cyril Laska, who I think Mark Godbeer, in all honesty, could beat both those guys. So maybe it's a step up for him here for Walt Harris, but I just think he's far too athletic. I think he can mix it up a little bit better than what Mark can. I hope Mark wins. I mean, we spoke at length of him in Belfast last year. Top guy. Every time he came by, he was stopping and talking. So one of the nice guys of the sport. And with people like that, you really want them to kind of showcase and win fights on the biggest stage. And he did that against Daniel Spitz. Was really happy for him there. A little bit surprised this fight's in America. I think they should have kept Mark in Europe, and they could have easily matched him up with someone who maybe who won recently, maybe like a Justin Willis in Glasgow or so on. But this, to me, reigns like a showcase fight for Walt Harris to show everything that he can be. But if this fight goes late, then I can maybe see Mark landing a few shots on him. So it's either going to be Walt late or Mark, maybe Mark Walt early or Mark very late. That's kind of how I see this possibly. But I have to go with Walt Harris. I think he's got at least 2 good rounds on him where he can land a big shot. He's shown that in the past. I just think he's going to catch Mark with a shot and put him to sleep, unfortunately. Hope I'm wrong. And Mark gets the win, goes into Vegas again and gets another win and comes back home with it.
I hope that Mark doesn't come out slow. That's the big key. Because Walt Harris is a long fighter. That range is a big thing. Now, Spitz was a big fighter again, and Mark showed that he can get inside that range because he has got the movement. He's got the kind of striking to get in there because he throws heavy to get in close. So that at any risk, if he is going to get hit, he's going to be swinging as well. So you kind of got to keep your defense up. It is one of them fights where Mark's shown that he can close that range down. But do I think he's going to get it down? I think Walt Harris has probably got a bit tidier hands. Now, Walt Harris had a bad stint the first time around the UFC. This stint ain't, well, it's nearly 50-50. If he loses, 50-50. But like you say, you could have had Mark on a polling card against a certain, a good matchup, and that would have been a good idea. I think for Mark, it is a case of being patient, not rushing in like he does sometimes in his fights, where he just gets kind of bored in a way. Like he just wants to bite down and just smash him. Walt Harris with those long straights, those 1-2s, could really put Mark in trouble. I think Mark just needs to be patient, pick his shots, pick his timings, and pace it to an extent, but also use his leg kicks a lot more. Mark's got some really good Muay Thai, like really solid, for a heavyweight, good solid Muay Thai. Those leg kicks on heavyweights, start chopping them calves. Those calf kicks are becoming more and more prominent. In a heavyweight division, you need to use them against someone like Walt Harris. You need to stop his movement, snap those calf kicks in, slow him right down, and then you can just start to walk around him and just pick his shots off a lot easier. But that's only if they're using that tactic. I don't know what they are. I did speak to Mark recently, just chatting to him on Facebook. I say he is a great guy to talk to. I haven't talked to him about his tactics, to be honest with you. I probably will drop him a message this week to have a chat with him about it, see what he's doing. But yeah, I'm hoping that Mark can do that tactic, because if he picks his legs off, he'll then be able, I think, to put Walt away and, you know, leave it to like second, third round, start really landing those heavy shots. But yeah, I think Walt's most dangerous at the very start, bro. And this was actually meant to be on the main card, this fight, but they took it off when the Demetrius Johnson and Ray Borg fight came along.
Well, it's a big fight. Yeah, it's a big fight. If Mark wins this fight, he takes all that hype from Walt Harris, and then he probably puts himself in the top 15. Are very close to it at least. So big fight for Mark. Hope he pulls it off. I just think it's a tough one for him, though.
It is, bro. It is. Next up, we have the ladies fighting, and I were never going to say no to the ladies fighting strawweight division. And Pearl Gonzalez, I think she's got a very tough matchup in a second bout against Paulina Botello, or probably like Botello, however you want to say it. Dude, I think Pearl's a good fighter. I think she's a nice, good fighter. I think I would have liked to maybe seen her fight a couple more times outside the UFC, get a game a bit more rounded off, because she's fighting against a girl who is a very, very, very hard hitter, and who fought at 125 as well. So she is a bit bigger than a normal 125er, let's say. She's almost like a Jessica Andrade, where she's quite big cutting down. She's got a lot of power. Like, I think for Pearl, she wants to probably try and make this as much of a grappling contest against the cage, to try and at least maybe tire a bit of the arms of Paulina, especially if she can get her tired a little bit to start, let that adrenaline dump kick in as well for the octagon nerves, and then take advantage of it. But if I'm honest, I would not be shocked if Paulina got the finish here against Pearl, because that girl can hit and crack.
Yeah, she can. First of all, Pearl Gonzalez is an absolute stunner.
Yeah,
she's like literally one of those girls when she kind of draws the breath away. I'm like, holy shit. I even said that to the fiance as well. I was like, she is stunning. When I was watching her fight against Cynthia Calvillo, tough fight. This Botello girl comes in. I've been watching her. I actually knew about 18 months ago. She knocked out Karina Rodriguez with like a spinning. It's kind of like a baseball bat, kind of spinning back kick that she swung. And she put her down with that. So I've kind of knew about her since then. Very, like, she has like two different styles where she can go that typical berserker fighter, but then she can also fight really measured and fight at a distance, and she's quite long. And she did that in that Rodriguez fight I was talking about, where she put her against the cage and she didn't rush in like I've seen in fights past, but she like kept it at a distance, used kicks, used a long jab, and used really nice combinations, and really beat her ass pretty badly. So when I had this fight get put together, I thought this is really interesting, because I thought Gonzalez looked very good against Calvillo. Calvillo is one of these fighters who every fight you're going to see her get better. I thought we'd seen her be a little bit better against Calderwood, but she was on the ground with Calvillo when she's very dangerous down there. She stuck around for, I think it was the third round she got stopped. Eventually, I think that was a weird week for Pearl Gonzalez as well, because she had
she got pulled off the card.
Yeah, she got pulled off the card and then was back on there with her titties and stuff, her fake titties. So it's like it was a bit of a weird week, but I thought she was outmatched, but I thought she gave a good account of herself. Big fight for her here, because really she's got everything the UFC wants. If she can fight half decent, she looks amazing. Yeah. I think she's got like a Latina background, so she's got that there. So she could be a token for the UFC to use and say if they go to Mexico or so on, or down Brazil, whatever. But I think I think this Botelho chick, this is one of these fights that I know when I hit Friday, I'm going to be a little bit undecided on, because I think Gonzalez is good. I think if she can get it to the ground, she can control Botelho, but I think she will be able to get back to her feet as well. So I see this more of a 60-40 fight for Botelho. I just think she's going to ding her up a little bit. I think once Gonzalez gets it to the ground, I think that Botelho's just going to want to get her back to her feet, and really from there, I think Botelho's the more measured striker, the better striker. I think she hits harder, and she's got better footwork as well. So I'm going to go a decision win for Botelho, but as I say, I think it's one of those fights by the end of the week. I could be a little bit swayed with Pel Gonzalez, but yeah, I like Botelho.
It's a good. It's going to be a good. I think it's going to be one of those fights that's the more entertaining on the card. That it probably isn't being looked at, because again, I don't think the card's being looked at as much as people probably are, due to the fact that it's an interim title and that it's Demetrius Johnson's fighting again. You know, he doesn't get enough attention. There isn't enough hype behind watching one of Demetrius' fights, which is a bit stupid. But anyway, it is what it is. We've got Bobby Green coming up though in the lightweight division. Bobby Green's back, who is a character in the UFC, let's put it that way, against Lando Venata. Now, this fight is made for Lando. This is a fight made for him to go out there, showcase his, which we already know is a very fun skill set. The dude is so varied. I think that's what made him and Tony Ferguson such a fun matchup, because of their various kind of unpredictable striking. I think that's what made those two guys work so well together. And I think in this fight up, you know, Bobby Green, I don't know what happened in that Dustin Poirier fight with his putting his hands down, chin out and all that stuff. Absolutely bananas. But, you know, he needs a win. Bad. Yeah. Bad. Like, that dude was on a tear, and then it's just been downhill for the past few years. You know, obviously he was out for a bit and all this, but in general, I don't know what's going on with Bobby Green. I don't know if the Bobby Green of old can turn up, I think he'd go through Lando, because Bobby Green at one point was so good with his hands, so quick, so talented, so much potential. But I do just see Lando Venata just really outclassing him with such a varied onslaught of striking that is probably, it wouldn't shock me if he was to stop Bobby Green.
Yeah, Bobby's a weird guy, because you can see that he's got skills, but I don't think I think sometimes his head's not in it, but I think sometimes everything that goes on outside of the cage, I think actually getting in the cage is the easiest thing for the guy, but yeah, I think he takes everything outside the cage in there with him, and it affects him a little bit. That being said, his losses are two legit guys, so let's put out there. Barboza, Magomedov, Poirier, but that fight at 199 kind of showed a little bit where I thought, actually, when you look at the difference between the Magomedov fight and the Poirier fight, he came in hands down, chin in the air, being cocky, and it paid for it big time. The Magomedov fight, he lost a split decision. Now, he could have easily won that fight. I thought he fought really smart, fought tactical against one of the most tactical guys in the division, and could have potentially won that fight, but his back's against the wall. It's just depending what Bobby Green's going to turn up, because if he turns up being technical and not being gung-ho and coming at Lando, then he could potentially start picking him off from the outside. But Lando is so diverse in so many aspects of the striking aspects that I think eventually Bobby Green's going to slow a little bit, and Lando's going to catch him with something really, really nice on the chin, and I can see him putting him down in the second, maybe even the third round, and that would be a big thing, because Barboza couldn't do that, and I think Magomedov couldn't do that, so I think he can stop him. But this is a big fight for Lando as well, because he's had 2 UFC losses.
Yes, he has, yeah.
Albeit he lost to Tony Ferguson, which he looked great in that fight.
Last minute step in,
He lost that fight, but he didn't really lose that fight. And then the serious knockout of John McDessie, and then the war that he had with David Tamer, and that's where David Tamer really showed up, and showed that this kid can go forward. But I think Lando maybe took him a little bit easy. I don't think he's going to do that against Bobby Green. I think the later this fight goes, he can stop Bobby Green. I think he could do it, and it'd be a big feather in his cap. I'm going to pick Lando via a third round TKO. And we'll see him move on, but let's say Bobby Green's backs against the wall, so he needs this here. So interesting fight in the prelims.
And then you've got coming up is a fight that I think I'm looking forward to because it's a battle of technique in the lightweight division. You've got Will Brooks and Nick Lentz, and this is a wrestling 101 because let's be honest, Nick Lentz. Now that dude, he is like tough as nails, and he will take a hit. But that dude is so good at grappling. Like he gets you down, you're in a world of hurt. But the problem is, Will Brooks is so good at his wrestling. Like that dude is a nightmare to grapple with. I really think if Will Brooks has got his striking on point, I can really see him causing a lot of problems for Nick Lentz. Now Will Brooks has not shone since signing with the UFC. He's had like a couple of wins against guys who weren't really ranked, to be talking about. But I think this is the best fight for Will Brooks to get a good name on his record against someone like Nick Lentz, because Nick Lentz is a legit guy in the UFC for like some of the top fighters around there. Does Nick Lentz do really well because he's going to be at 155? He's going to be super healthy. Is that going to be a factor for Nick? Is it going to be more of a benefit for Nick than it will be for Will? It's a tough one because I don't think it's going to be a whitewash for either fighter. I can really see it being quite a tight fight, but it's all about that wrestling game. Who can get the dominance? Who can control the fight? If it stays standing, does Nick give up on the takedowns and just stick to the striking then? Because Nick has slowly been evolving his striking, but I still think he'll go to his bread and butter, which is the grappling side of things. But I think it's going to be super tight, this one.
Yeah, this is one of the fights I'm not overly looking forward to that much, but it's a weird one because both these guys used to train together at ATT. Something must have happened because these guys have been jaw-jacking on Twitter for a while now, so some shit must have went down when they were at ATT together. But big fight for Will Brooks. Flattered to see since come to UFC. He was talking himself up really big, coming over from Bellator. Not only is he losing, but he's getting stopped by guys as well.
Yeah, he broke his rib, didn't he? Against Charles Oliveira.
Yeah. So I think he lost to Charles Oliveira and he lost to Cowboy Oliveira. So at least he's not facing a Brazilian guy here, so he can't. That might be one of his things that he maybe loses to a Brazilian guy or whatever. But he got beat up pretty badly in those fights as well. So interesting because I think Will Brooks is really hard to take down. He's got those massive legs. And I think across 3 rounds, he's the better gas tank. Nick Lentz, I think, is close to being on his way out. And lost to Islam Makhachev, and there's nothing wrong with that because Islam, when he turns up, is a good fighter. Beat Michael McBride, not a great fighter. But I think Will being at ATT, I think continuing to stay there. Nick Lentz is back home in Minnesota, I believe. So it's a really interesting fight. I can see if Nick Lentz can get a fast start, I can see him winning the decision. If Will Brooks, I think the first round's a big thing. I think if Will Brooks can win the first round, I see him winning maybe 2 out of 3 fairly convincingly. If Nick Lentz wins the first, I can maybe see him scraping the second or the third to win a close split decision. So I'm going to pick Will Brooks just for the fact that I'm not the biggest fan of Nick Lentz. I think he's I just don't really. He was talking all that shit about BJ Penn and albeit you want to fight BJ Penn nowadays because that's an easy fight, but I've never really been his biggest fan. It was the whole Conor McGregor thing. He was saying that he wasn't this and he wasn't that, and that turned out to be BS. So don't talk about my boy Conor. So I like Will Brooks. I just think he's a little bit better, well-rounded, and I think that his wrestling is definitely better than maybe not definitely, but it is a little bit better than Nick Lentz.
Let's go to the next fight, which is the main event of the prelims. Will, I'll let you go off with this because I know that you're a little bit of a fanboy of the Frenchie. So go ahead, bro.
I am really looking forward to this fight. This is the main event is shit hot, but this fight, props to the matchmakers of the UFC because this is 2 legit up-and-coming guys with legit records who are facing off in their second UFC fights together. I love this fight on so many levels, and I've struggled to pick the winner in this one. I'm trying not to let my being a fan of Tom Duquesnoy kind of take over me. because Cody Stamann is a really, really solid talent. I really liked his UFC debut. Showed really good hands, showed unbelievable timing to when Terry and Whale was coming forward, just to time it absolutely perfect and take him down. And I think he can get Tom Duquesnoy down as well. What I love about Tom Duquesnoy is he's completely open to everything.
Yeah.
He's extremely hittable. You can take the guy down, but the kid does not stop. He gets back to his feet. He never gives up kind of position. Always tries to get back to a dominant position. And when he's got you on your feet and moving around, you're in deep shit. Damian Rooney stood there with him, absolutely. And Damian Rooney's a solid 135er, went down to 125 over here in Ireland and in Europe. Took his chin off. Alan Philpott, that was a great fight. Had a tough fight against Brendan Loughnane, and I think could have potentially lost that fight.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people did give him that one. I'll give it to Tom, but that's just because I'm probably a fan. But hey, really, in his UFC debut, I think he flat to deceive. I think that he will definitely go back to Jackson Wink, which I think is a very smart move. I think he'll get those things that were clearly there to be shot at. I think he will make all those bad things better, putting out there. But see, once this guy's got you in close, he throws heavy elbows everywhere in the clinch against the cage, and I'm just a complete kind of fanboy for this guy. I've been saying to other guys on social media, I think this guy's a top 5 fighter right now, and I think the UFC matchmakers think that, but they've got to really match him up. I watched the watch list with the matchmakers, Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby, and they were talking really highly about this Tom Duquesnoy, because they know that he's got a lot of hype around him. He's a great gym. He's a really good fighter for fighters to watch, because for fans to watch, I should say, because it's so exciting.
Yeah.
But Cody Stamann is so legit good.
Yeah.
I can see him winning this fight, so it's a really interesting fight for me. I seen it being close, 29-28. I think Cody comes out quick. I think he puts him down a couple of times, wins that round, and then I think Tom comes into it. But I do think all the rounds are going to be super close. But I'm edging the Fire Kid, Tom Duquesnoy. Originally, I was going to go with Cody Stamann, but I just think that Tom's got a little bit more firepower, could potentially stop more takedowns, and if Stamann can't get the takedowns, then I think he's in a little bit of trouble. So that's when I'm kind of looking at it. Top fight, really. I wouldn't mind this fight getting moved to the pay-per-view, but having it on the prelims where probably more people's going to see it is a plus for those guys. So top fight. I just want a solid fight. Doesn't matter if Tom loses.
Yeah.
Everybody's got to take that loss in the UFC. So whatever happens with these guys, they're still going to be top 15 guys in the next 18 months, I believe. So great fight.
It is. And I think one of the big factors is Duquesnoy being at Jackson Winklejohns against wrestlers, like legitimate wrestlers. And I think that's what's going to really... We haven't seen the benefits of it yet, because like you say, there's only one fight he's had really in the UFC. We haven't seen a guy probably try to get Tom down all the time. We haven't seen his kind of defense, his ways of getting back up again. I actually want to hopefully see him get taken down, so we can see how he is, how much better he has got at getting back up again against a guy who's a legit guy, a grappler. You know, he's got legit grappling skills. So I love the matchup. I hope Cody can get him down just so we can see this. But I want fireworks upstairs. You know, I want fireworks on the pair of them. I want fireworks on standard. So this is probably one of the most exciting fights on the card by a mile. It legitimately is in the top 3 by a mile. It's fantastic. I'm looking forward to this fight immensely. Again, only because of the potential you get in Tom. But also the fact that Cody might be looked over by a lot of people who don't know him that much. But like you say, the kid is super good, super legit fighter in the world of MMA. I'm semi-annoyed that they put this fight on so early in their careers. But at the same time, it's such an exciting fight for their second. You know, it's great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Kicking off the main card though, bro, is Beneil Dariush against Evan Dunham. Now, I think this is the perfect type of bout for Beneil to come back onto after that redonkulously bad knockout by Edson Barboza. That is one hell of a knockout by Edson. I still have that possibly as my knockout of the year. That was sick. Absolutely sick. But when you're coming back to a fight 7 months after a knockout, I'm always a bit dubious about, how are they going to be. Evan Dunham is not your guy who's going to be standing there knocking you out with, big hands. But I really feel that Beneil can get this win on this fight. I think on the ground, I think Evan can get him down, but I think the danger that Beneil possesses is going to be too much of a threat for Evan. Like when he fought Ross Pearson, and it's gone, Ross doesn't have that much of a ground game, so there's no fear. Evan Dunham just can't sit and guard because Beneil has got potential with submissions, and I think the referee will stand it up. Then if it stands it up, then you've got the onslaught from Beneil striking, which is going to be just a nightmare in itself. I don't like this matchup really for Evan Dunham myself. I don't know about you, Will, but I don't know how you see it, bro.
No, I don't like it either. I think this is just a matchup. I think on that watch list, like I was talking about before, these are literally the only two lightweights in the rankings that did not have a fight scheduled, so it was easy to put this fight together. Dunham, to his credit, he actually really impressed me in Glasgow. I know Ross Pearson's kind of limited in what he can do, but his timing and his takedowns were beautiful, like single legs to take him down were awesome. But I mean, he's not fighting legit caliber guys, so it's really. I just think it's a bad matchup for him. I really do. I think Beneil Dariush is just a little bit better everywhere. He's coming off a life-changing knockout. Let's not forget about that. But I like Beneil across the board. Yeah, I actually think he could stop Evan Dunham kind of late on the fight as well. So heavy leg kicks, very, very, very accurate punches. But sometimes Beneil Dariush does lay an egg. So that's maybe why I've seen some people picking Evan Dunham. So I'm going to go Beneil. I think he's going to get a finish later on.
And then we've got a heavyweight matchup. The biggest fight for Derek Lewis right now, Fabrizio Verdum, former champ, one of the top heavyweights in the world. Fabrizio Verdum is. Derek Lewis getting that huge opportunity to fight this, to fight Verdum. What a fight. To be honest with you, Derek Lewis said he was retiring after his last fight because of his back issues. Clearly, the UFC went, whoa. What's the problem you got here, son? Let's fix that back problem for you. We'll take the bill. No doubt about that. Fix his back problem. Clearly feels he's okay to fight again. Doing a lot of training. Helping Houston, which is a big thing. That dude spent a lot of time helping, he saw the posts, helping his home, helping the people there, doing a lot of stuff. I worry that maybe how much has that affected his training. Big factor to take into consideration there, because there's no joke for Fabrizio Verdum. He is no joke to look at. So I hope that it hasn't affected his training too much. I wonder how much of that played on his mind when he was obviously in Houston. But at the same time, it's a great matchup for Fabrizio Verdum. For him, though, it's a make-or-break fight. If he loses to Derek Lewis, it's like, what do you do now? Where are you going to go? Because you're not getting any younger, Fabrizio. It's, I know it's the heavyweight division, so a couple of wins can get you up there again, but you really don't want to be losing this fight for Fabrizio Verdum.
Yeah, I'm kind of confident in Verdum, but I'm weirdly confident in Derek Lewis in some aspects of this fight. It's a weird. I find this a weird fight. I just think that Verdum, I think, is clearly better in a lot of aspects, but sometimes he just fights weird, like he did against Miocic, where I don't understand. I still don't understand to this day why he came running at Stipe Miocic, who is a Golden Gloves boxer, and is a really solid striker. And I thought he won that fight with Alistair Overeem last time out. I will be honest with you, but if this goes to the ground, it's interesting because if Derek Lewis gets on top of this guy, he's got some of the most legit ground and pound as well. So, but Fabrizio is one of those guys you don't really want to go to the ground with because he could pick something and submit you. It could be a little bit of a staring match. I can maybe see that happening for a couple of rounds. So I'm going to pick actually this heavyweight fight to go to decision, and I'm going to edge for Doom. I think the fighter who could potentially get the finish more is Derek Lewis, if he pushes himself to do so. But sometimes he doesn't do that. But I'm going to go a decision win for Doom and kind of keep himself in the mix for another title shot.
Good choice. I was going to say, because Derek Lewis, he kind of plods towards you to land those big strikes. Fabrizio Verdum has got the footwork. He is quite light on his feet for a heavyweight. Just get enough in the get the first 2 rounds out of the way. We have the co-main event, though, which was a late addition in some aspects, Demetrius Johnson, Ray Borg. It was meant to happen. Now it's back at 215. Now it's happening here. It's happening anyway. I don't care. Demetrius Johnson gets a chance to get that record. Most title wins. I've got to be honest. Can't really see past him. I know. I love Ray Borg as a fighter. I think he's a good guy. He's got a lot of potential in him. But again, it's one of them ones. There's no one left around. They're throwing him Ray Borg because if not, he's not fought him. Basically, it saves having to do rematches. And it's just a fresh face for Demetrius Johnson to go out there and beat. And I just can't see DJ going here and losing the fight. I just can't see it.
No, I'm with you on that. I think we should never underestimate fighters. But
no.
I think there's clear gaps in skill with these guys. And I think Reborg's really good. And he's one of the best scramblers in the sport. He can control you down there. But I think wherever this fight takes place, Demetrius Johnson's just going to be better against you pretty much. Like Reborg is pretty well rounded in everything, but Demetrius Johnson is very well rounded on everything. Like you're down here, he's up there. If we're talking about Reborg being a well rounded fighter, Demetrius Johnson as a well rounded fighter is up here. The guy beats specialists at their own game. Wilson Hayes, he controlled in the ground. He's did that in the past. Tim Elliott gave him a little bit of problems being a bit kind of bigger guy. Reborg's not that much bigger than Demetrius Johnson, so I just think not unless Ray finds himself in a position where he's scrambling and could catch him, I don't see Demetrius losing, and he's going to, I think, fight a couple more times at flyweight, and then we might see him go up to join that unbelievable division that is 135. So many great fights up there for him, but I just don't see DJ losing. I see him finishing this fight. Ray Borg's I don't know what happened. He said he got ill. I think it was more a weight cut thing.
Yeah, he said respiratory problem.
Yeah, and since then, he's fired his nutritionist, which is a little bit of a worry considering he's missed weight a few times. So, but DJ all the way here, and he's the guy that is 100%, I think, locked on to win his fight this weekend, and a 100% lock on DraftKings as well, because the guy is the god on DraftKings. He's got unbelievable numbers on there.
A fight, though, the main event, which is potentially going to get you a lot of numbers, I think, if I'm honest with you. From the aspect here, you got Tony Ferguson fighting Kevin Lee for the interim lightweight title, because we never know when the Foot Connor is actually going to defend the belt. So we might have someone in who will actually fight and probably want to defend it. So we've got Tony Ferguson, Kevin Lee. Kevin Lee's kind of skyrocketed up to get this title shot. Tony Ferguson, who was kind of almost, it looked set in stone that he was going to get a shot. He kept doing, all he's done is just win, win, win. I said that he was going to get a title shot last year, to say that this year he was going to get one. He's finally got a stab at it. I think Tony Ferguson's a great fighter. I think he's super fun and entertaining to watch. But then again, I think Kevin Lee has evolved into a ridiculously good fighter as well. And I do, in my opinion, like you and I both said off there, mate, we've got to favour Kevin Lee. Both of us are going with Kevin Lee, because not because we've hung out with him and he's such an awesome dude. Besides that, on a technical aspect, that dude, when he gets you on the ground, Michael Chiesa was a bit of a really good grappler. Yeah, and he just choked Chiesa out like nothing. Kevin Lee is a big 155er, strong as shit. I cannot see Tony Ferguson stopping the takedown or stopping Kevin Lee getting in a position on top to do what he wants to.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of people are seeing this as a clear victory for Tony Ferguson. I don't see it. I'm not writing off Kevin Lee in the slightest by saying that he hasn't got a chance here. If you have to go back and watch Tony Ferguson's fight. The guy gives you opportunities on the feet and on the ground. If you give Kevin Lee those opportunities on the ground, and if he gets you a back, I don't think he can stop Kevin Lee from submitting him. Now, I could be completely wrong there, because we've never seen Tony being put on his back or have his back taken. Well, we have seen him being put on his back, but we've not seen him had his back taken. That's what I'm trying to say. So he's a very squirrely guy. He finds a way to get back to his feet. He's very long. He's got those devastating Dorsch chokes, which he seems to find from so many angles.
Long arms.
Yeah. He is clearly the best fighter that Kevin Lee's ever fought, and this is a clear step up for him. But what I said in my prediction video was love what Kevin Lee's done. He's went to different parts of the world and beat tough guys in their own backyards. I always think that's a huge confidence booster. And Kevin Lee, really, he doesn't need his confidence boosted anymore because he's one of the most confident guys I think I've ever met. Very self-assured of himself, knows what talents he has. Just a really... It's kind of clear because on the feet, Tony should have the advantage. I think that's pretty obvious. Throws a lot of diverse strikes, a lot of weird movement. But Kevin Lee's shown in his fights that his striking's coming on as well, and he's employing high kicks and so on. Really, so many people are writing off Kevin Lee, and I don't know. I think it's just because he's not really fought the caliber. Saying that, Tony Ferguson, he has beat top guys, your Barbosas, and so on, but he gives opportunities to his opponent. But taken down by, now this is a while ago, let's be honest with it, Danny Castillo, Abel Trujillo, Barbosa fight was a little bit closer, but he gets taken down, he got taken down in all those fights. I think Kevin Lee's the best grappler he's ever faced, best wrestler he's ever faced. So he will give takedowns away pretty convincingly, I think, in the first couple of rounds. I am a little bit worried about Kevin Lee's gas tank. I am a little bit worried about if he gets caught clean, because Phil Santos is not a striker. Caught him clean, put him down, put him out. Where Tony is just so diverse that he could throw so many strikes it could potentially put Kevin down. I'm a little bit, they're the couple of things I'm worried about. I've seen some people say, I bet Kevin Lee, I think the odds were matched up right for it. I like the number that I got for him, and people are saying I'm wasting my money. Well, I think it's a good bet on my side. It might, to you, it might not be a good bet, but I think it's worth the shot on him. Big fight, grown in confidence every fight, and I just think it's a really interesting fight because either Tony starts them really, really quick, or I see Kevin can maybe grind him out across a couple of rounds and then maybe get a submission. So it's a tough fight. I can see where people are coming from regarding Tony Ferguson. But I like Kevin Lee, and I have done for a long time since I had this fight put together. So hope Kevin can get it done, or either one of these guys, doesn't matter, and then we can get Conor to come back and fight with these guys. Whether that happens is another thing altogether, because it would be a tough fight for Conor against either of these guys. I think especially against Kevin Lee, he could struggle a little bit if it goes late. But it's an interesting fight. I like Kevin Lee. I err on the side of Kevin Lee, so hopefully he gets it done. But I just want a good main event, a good fight, because see who's next in line if Conor decides he wants to face the interim champion, which I don't think he will, but we'll see.
That's that card. Before we shoot off, leaving that card, just quickly, over or under 400,000 buys?
Under.
I think the same.
I think 300,000. I think it could do.
Yeah, I think about that too. I really do. I've not seen that much advertisement personally from the UFC's perspective. They're not really pushing it at all. If I'm honest with you, I wouldn't have known a pay-per-view was going down. I would think it's a fight night card from the way they're going on about it. Considering you've got Demetrius Johnson going on there and your co-main event with all the record he's going to do and all this stuff, you could at least promote him at least to an extent, and even sell the fact that, the winner of this fight could go and fight Conor McGregor. You can pull Conor in as advertisement for this. Not that he probably will, but, the thought of Conor McGregor defending his belt is just something that bewilders me. I have more chance of seeing a leprechaun. But anyway, so we'll go to your questions now, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go, Will. This is a question from our friend Adam Sean again. His Twitter handle is AdamSean292. Is Jimmy Manuwa a legit title contender, or should he consider some more fun fights now due to the fact that, the Volkan Oezdemir starching, to put it politely, and he's had a few heavy knockouts before. He's not getting any younger. I think he's 38, is he now? I think it's maybe 38 years old. He's not getting any younger. What is your perspective and views on the Jimmy Manuwa situation?
He's always going to be a contender at 205 because it's so light. But when he faces those guys around him or above him, he seems to lose. So he will win a couple of fights, and then he'll get himself. He could potentially get himself Daniel Cormier in a couple of fights if DC sticks around. because I mean, it's just there's not much in that division. I did think he was a little bit silly in the Ozdemir fight, but kind of rushing in a little bit too quick. But all fairness to Ozdemir, he put it on Manoa and put him to sleep inside the first 30 seconds. So fun fights. It's hard to see what fun fights could you make for him. You could potentially go to heavyweight, maybe fight some guys up there, or maybe some guys coming up from 185. Let's say, I don't know, maybe a Romero or something. I don't know if it ever comes up, but
Luke Rockhold.
Yeah, maybe in the future, but it's a hard. I think he's kind of in a weird place at the minute. He's fighting in Poland against that guy. I'm hearing he is fighting this guy, but other people tell me he's fighting Khalil Roundtree. So it's a weird thing. I don't know what's going on with that at the minute. But that fight cards in 2 weeks' time, so I think he's going to face the Polish guy, Msala. But to answer the question, I think he will always be in contention as long as he's winning fights. But I don't see him ever winning the title.
No. Well, actually, correction. He was 30. He's going to be 38 in February. Right. So come UFC London, he'll be 38, which he might be on that card.
Yeah.
Which would be a shock. Next question we have from Elite MMA News, and their Twitter handle is, believe it or not, at Elite MMA News. Okay, so would love to hear what your thoughts are on the rumoured DC Volkan Oezdemir, kind of linking in here from Jim Manoa. The fight is hard to call, and they've also were asking what our thoughts are on 216, the Lewis Verdun fight, which we talked about previously. So, DC Volkan Oezdemir rumour, because if you saw on Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, Daniel Cormier put out a poll to say, who do you want me to fight next? And the fans have spoken, and Volkan Oezdemir is a winner. And I love the fact that the fans did that. I'll tell you what, I am happy they did that, because you know what? Why not? It's like a Rocky Balboa story. The guy's come out of nowhere, done his job, won his fight, and now he's potentially going to get that title fight. I love it. I love it if he gets it, because you don't know if he's going to win, because you don't know what he's going to do. I mean, if you're DC, there isn't the OSP fight with a lot of footage, but other than that, not a lot of footage in the UFC. So you're kind of going in there with a question mark on what he's going to do. I think it's fantastic. You know, but the problem I've got, if I'm DC, that dude's a heavy hitter. DC's got rocked and battered by John Jones. Like, is its toll starting to take on DC? Age, the weight cuts, the training, aka the injuries, etc. Is that all taking a toll? The knock, the finishing of John Jones. Can Volkan Oezdemir have that Midas touch with that power and just drop DC? You can't ride him off. I love it.
Yeah, I think it's smart of DC as well, putting that poll out and seeing what the fans want, because it's a fresh matchup. People want to see fresh matchups. We've seen him against Gustafsson. He beat Gustafsson. So, but it's a weird spot for DC, because he mentally, he's got to try and convince himself. Now, he is the champion, because John Jones did what he did, but he clearly lost that fight, and he got knocked out badly in that fight, where he was crying, he didn't know what was going on. So it's a weird spot. Oezdemir has come in and did what you really should do in a division like that. Come in, win against a guy people don't expect to, and then come out and starch two guys in about a minute between them. So, and now he's got himself an opportunity for the UFC light heavyweight championship against the guy who lost the belt but got the belt back. So it's all with DC's head, where his head's at. If his head's in the game, I see him beating Oezdemir, but with this Oezdemir guy, you just don't know what's going on with him. So I like the matchup. I think that it wouldn't surprise me if that's an early pay-per-view main event or a Fox main event in the early new year. So yeah, I like the matchup. I think it's a fresh matchup, and that's what we need at 205, is to try and keep fresh matchups happening.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just fun. I just think I'm happy they've done it. So we had other questions, and they were on YouTube from Kasabian A. His one question he had was Adam Milstead or Jake Collier. So I replied back saying Adam Milstead. I know he had the blowout knee, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of potential in Adam Milstead. I think Jake Collier is a good fighter, but if I had to pick between the two of them, I'd probably pick Adam Milstead myself. I don't know about you, Will.
Yeah, probably that. I think what he's going on about here is this nickname, because they're both the nickname of both those guys is the Prototype. So I think what he's going on about is the nickname regarding trademarking that thing.
Yeah.
So I think, what was the next question?
Yeah, because it was in relation. Is there any many prototypes in MMA as there is pit bulls? So is there any? Yeah, that's a good point. That's good. Yeah. So it's just the way the questions have gone the wrong way around.
Yeah.
Can fighters not copyright their nicknames? Well, they can't copyright them because you're copyrighting a word. So it's an impossible task to copyright. But then again, it's one of them ones. Sometimes you don't pick the ring. You don't pick your name. Sometimes it's a majority of the time you actually don't pick them. You know, people just get them. I don't have a name. I've been fighting for a while. I've had a few fights, but I've never had a name. You know, people always go, "Oh, what's your name, John?" And I just go, "John." And they just look at me like, "What, John? John?" I'm like, "No, it's just John." Oh, no, it's John. That's it. Like, all right, okay. Because sometimes you just don't have one. You know, you don't have to have one to be a fighter. It's not, you know, it's just not. It's not a necessity, so to speak. It's just something that you do for marketing employees. But I think the pound for pound is Pitbull. That is the pound for pound nickname, in it. Like, I think that's the lazy choice. If I'm honest with you, like, I think a lot of them only pick it because they look like one.
Yeah, Petco here. So there we go. There we go. Pitbull.
So yeah, I think Pitbull's like, yeah, you can't trademark it. And the other question, which was a very good question, he said, also, I was wondering why Arnold Allen's contract was not terminated after his recent shenanigans, like other ex-UFC fighters were in the past. For example, you had, oh gosh, it's just went away there. There it is. Come back here. So you had Brandao was released from the UFC on account of a felony arrest. You had Michael Graves, who was removed from a fight on October the 3rd after he was arrested for a misdemeanor battery charge. So I've spoken to Arnold Allen in Glasgow and said, you know, had a bit of a joke with him because, to be honest, me and Will have spoke to him, hung out with him. He is one of the nicest guys you will know. Legitimately, Arnold Allen is sound as a pound, right? Top guy. Chatting with him, you can't always listen to the way that it's worded in media, so to speak. You know, the circumstances were, you know, if someone touches your missus, I would like to think as a man, you will stand there to defend her. And that's pretty much what he did. And it's only due to the fact of who he is and what he is that it makes it look a lot worse than it was. You know, he's spoken with the UFC, explained the circumstances. You know, he was just defending his missus honor, basically, because she's not a fighter, she's a lover. And it just, you know, that's what was happening. And to be fair, I would probably, if I had a missus, if I had a girlfriend, I would do the same thing. I would absolutely wallop anyone who touched her. I'd lay them flat out. So I think that the charges that have been applied to him and the circumstances differ greatly probably from the Graves and Brandao circumstances, and that's possibly what they kind of look on it, you know. And obviously, you know, Arnold spoke to him at length, so I think that's why.
Yeah, no, you can, with some of these media things, different. If you go and look at different media, so say you go to MMA fighting and then you go to MMA junkie, they're saying different little things. So you're taking things, little bits from everything, and putting them together. When people really don't know the full story, not unless you speak to the guy. What was going on with you saying this? People were harassing his girlfriend, touching his girlfriend, and they just didn't happen to know that he was a professional fighter who makes a living off knocking dudes out. And he did just that. He defended his girlfriend. The UFC would have did their due diligence with this. They're not going to want a guy who went out and beat up random people in the public. They did their due diligence, went out there, looked into everything, spoke to him, got probably the truest story of all of it, and they've made the decision that it's absolutely fine. He was only protecting his loved ones, so rightly so that the UFC didn't get rid of him, because once you speak to Arnold and you see what his story actually was, then you would err on his side and why he did it. Because anybody, I think, if anybody did that to a loved one, you would protect them and want to look out for them and just get them out of that situation. But he could have maybe went about it a different way. But during that time, when there's 2 or 3 guys there harassing your missus, shit's going to go down. And Arnold just handled it the best way he thought of handling it and put those guys down. So, good on him.
Exactly. So now we're going to look at some matchups that have been announced recently because they are juicy, and they both gave me and Will a chub on. One of the matchups, mate, was Alistair Overeem and Francis Ngannou, December 12, UFC 218.
Yeah. Great.
I don't know what else to say other than just the name of the fight itself.
Yeah, it's a really, really solid fight. You know what Overeem's going to want to do? He's going to want to pick, get out the way, because Ngannou, all it takes is one shot and he will go to sleep easily. So it's a really interesting fight because everybody's gone about Ngannou and he has looked incredible, but the guy's still really green for in the sport. So, and he's against a guy who's literally fought hundreds of fights. So it's an interesting fight. I like Ngannou. I think he eventually will catch him, but it's an interesting fight. I'm not going to count out Overeem either because he could prod away for 3 rounds and win a decision.
Yeah, he can. He's started to turn into that really technical point style fighter, and he can knock you out any time, but he's not taking that risk, so to speak. He's being a very smart fighter. Another matchups that got announced, UFC 219, which these fights are just awesome. Cynthia Carvalho against Carla Esparza. Looking forward to seeing this because Carla's really starting to show her striking game. You know, she's really starting to grow it because that Joanna Jacek fight turned that life around on Carla. She realised that you cannot just wrestle your way to a win, and she's went away, studied and grown and developed her striking.
Yeah.
Cynthia Carvalho is just the UFC are trying not to push her too much, and then they're not because that's the right matchup to make. You know, same ranking, so it's a good fight for her. I think it's a big test for Cynthia. Because I think Carla's a lot smarter, a lot more experienced, a veteran, so to speak. She's been in big fights, she's been in big moments. I'm loving that matchup.
Yeah, it's a good matchup, but I think it's very winnable for Cynthia. I think where Carla's at her strongest is her wrestling, and where Cynthia's at her strongest is scrambling and on the ground. And then on the feet, I don't think there's going to be that much between them. I think Cynthia, in her fights, has shown that she's getting better. And Esparza's not great on her feet. She showed last time out that she's getting better. So I mentioned Calvillo. I think once it goes to ground, I can see her potentially getting into a position where she could maybe stop Carla and maybe find a submission. But it's a good fight to put together at this point and see where Cynthia is, because we know where Carla is and where she can be as well. So I like Cynthia, but very, very close.
Another fight which is a big fight for Jimmy Rivera, getting the matchup against Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Dominic Cruz, if you can get the timings on him, he is exposed to getting hit. And look, Cody Garbrandt showed that. And Jimmy hits very hard. And Jimmy's a great output. He's got good energy. He can keep going. I love this fight because I think for Jimmy Rivera, it's a great opportunity for him to showcase that he is a legitimate title contender. I think for Dominic Cruz, provided he's healthy, he's still one of the best around, one of the best at 135. It's probably one of the best fights I can think that's coming out at the moment.
Yeah, it's a fight. Honestly, I can't give you who I think will win at the minute because I'm actually going to sit back, I'm going to watch fights, I'm going to see if I can see little spots where both guys can take advantage of one another's skill sets here. I do think that Dominic Cruz has a very hard skill set to prepare for. If he puts it all together, I think he's a really tough guy to really look good against. I thought Cody did perfect. He had the grappling in his back pocket there if he needed to, but he had the faster hands and he had the better hands. But I think that Rivera has really, really solid low kicks, could potentially hurt Cruz with those low kicks and cut off the cage a little bit. And then when it comes on the feet, I think he could potentially hurt him there as well. So it's a close fight. I'm not going to give him a prediction for that one yet, but great fight to end the year on as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't really give a prediction, but I think it's still a great matchup, absolutely. Yeah. 100%. What was the other fights, bro, that we said we were talking about again? There
was Cejudo and Pettis getting rematch together,
Pettis, yeah.
which I think is a great fight. And then there was Swanson and Ortega,
which I think is a great fight, a great matchup, because I think with Swanson, that dude is always in a good scrap. Always in a good fight, that dude. And his boxing, he'd spent a lot of time doing his boxing, so Ortega is quite durable. He surprises you how much he takes. The thing is, he's now fighting a guy who doesn't tire like maybe the guys on the lower tier, so to speak, would have, because Swanson can keep that boxing up for 1, 2, 3 rounds. It's going to be a 5-round fight, though, so it's going to be interesting. Can his jiu-jitsu stay there in rounds 3 or 4 or 5? If it goes that far, can he have the energy levels to still grapple when they're tired and sweaty? That's a big key factor, I think. It's all about the conditioning for Ortega.
Yeah, I'm not really sold on Ortega, but I do think he's clearly been losing fights, and then he pulls the iron out the fire and he wins it. I mean, he did it against Moicano, he did it against Clay Guida. He's one of those guys. I think he not won his last 3 or 4 fights in the 3rd round.
In the last round,
and he's probably lost, or he was losing 3 of the last 4 of those fights. So it's a crazy. He's one of those guys that's very dangerous. He has got skills in his feet. I don't think they're to the level of what Cub Swanson has, but this guy is legit dangerous if he can grab a limb. If he can grab one of those limbs like he did against Moicano, you're going to sleep and you're going to tap out. So it's a really fun main event for that Fresno card at the end of the year, and I'm looking forward to the matchup because interesting to see where Cub Swanson is. Thought he looked okay against Artem Lobov, but just an interesting fight. Good main event.
Yeah, awesome main event. And that's the podcast this week, bro. I think that's all the matchups.
Yeah.
And that's us for another week. Awesome stuff, awesome time. Thank you very much, everyone, for listening at home. Thank you for the support and subscribing, etc. Keep it up. Keep your comments coming. Keep everything coming. We're having a great time here. We're having a lot of fun doing this, so please do not stop.
Yeah. Let's get it done. I was going to say, just subscribe. You can send in your questions to us anytime. You can send us direct message anytime at all. I'm not being haven't been on social media as much the last couple of weeks. I've run up to so many things, but I'm always there for questions if needs be. Send them in whenever you like, and just keep on supporting the podcast. And thank you very much, guys.